From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
A sweeping new change to U.S. immigration policy goes into effect today. What this means for Arizona.
Plus, rally tally. Just how much do campaign stops by President Trump and other candidates cost the cities they visit?
And some Mesa students could attend community college for free. Details on who qualifies and how the city plans to foot the bill.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Danielle Malkin.
And I'm Tyler Mannion. Thank you for joining us.
New rules take effect today for immigrants applying for green cards, visas, and admission into the United States.
U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services tried to implement these rules last fall, but multiple federal court issues injunctions.
Madison LaBerge spoke with an advocacy group that explained how the changes to what's known as public charge will affect Arizona families.
Those injunctions did temporarily stop the public charge rules from taking effect last year, but a new Supreme Court ruling lifted those final holds across the nation. When an immigration officer is looking at an application for a visa or a green card, they decide how likely that applicant is to become dependent on certain government benefits. A public charge is grounds for the denial of a visa, green card, or entrance into the U.S. Now, many immigrant families are both scared and confused. Across the nation, fewer Hispanics are enrolling in public benefits like access here in Arizona. It's important to note that public charge does not apply to all immigrants. Refugees, asylees, and U.S. citizens related to non-citizens are not affected under these new rules. I spoke with Simon Qasim, the president and CEO of Children's Action Alliance, who told me the new rules of public charge will affect a narrow group of immigrants, namely the ones that are applying for their green cards for the very first time.
Who public charge is really impacting is a much larger group of folks. And so in Arizona, 1 in 4 children lives in a household with an immigrant parent. And what you see is wide-ranging chilling effects through many immigrant communities. People who are eligible, people who public charge does not impact, are withdrawing from benefits, are uncertain, are confused, and feeling fear.
These new rules will take effect with application postmarked from today. Illinois was the last state with a federal court order blocking the new rules from taking effect. However, according to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website, the state is now included in the new nationwide rules. In the studio, Madison LaBerge, Cronkite News.
Right now, conservation groups across Arizona are petitioning the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization to put the El Pinacate and Gran Desierto de Altar Biosphere Reserve on the endangered list because of border wall construction. According to the groups, the 30-foot wall poses a threat to unique Sonoran wildlife. It also prevents cross-border migration and habitat use, and cuts through the route of a sacred cross-border journey of the Tohono O'odham people.
Thousands were in attendance last week as the president made his first stop in Arizona since the 2020 election season kicked off. An event of that size comes with a hefty price tag. According to recent reports, the Trump campaign did pay the $27,000 rental fee for Wednesday's use of Veterans Memorial Coliseum in advance. But it seems the president racked up charges with other Valley cities, sometimes on official visits, others on campaign stops. The president's 2017 speech in Phoenix cost the city more than $450,000, which ended in downtown Phoenix flooded with rioters and tear gas. The majority of that cost for employee overtime. There was not a request for reimbursement from the city for those costs of the official presidential visit, which was not a campaign stop. Following a stop in Mesa in 2018 to rally support for Senator Martha McSally's Senate campaign, the city sent the Trump campaign a request for reimbursement, totaling more than $64,000 to cover the cost of rented equipment such as barricade and security, as well as towing services. The practice of not paying for campaign rally debt is bipartisan. That's according to Donald Sherman, the Deputy Director of Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders had similar unpaid costs from his 2016 campaign. Those were settled before his 2020 run. Under FEC law, campaigns are not required to pay the costs they incur when campaigning in cities and localities. However, they must report that debt. Whether or not it's resolved is at the discretion of the campaign, leaving taxpayers with the check. If taxpayers are footing the bill to these visits, should they be able to refuse the visit entirely? Sherman said the chances of that happening are unlikely.
So I think a city can say no, but there's both a financial cost and, frankly, a reputational cost when we've seen the president retaliate against some of these local elected officials simply for suggesting that the president's campaign helped shoulder the financial burden.
While the city of Mesa billed the Trump campaign for the 2018 election rally, the city of Mesa did release a statement saying they had never billed the Trump White House or previous administration and embraced the obligation to provide security for the president and his official visits. That statement reiterating the fact that the president is not legally obligated to cover the costs of the 2018 campaign rally.
Today marks 152 years since President Andrew Johnson, the 17th U.S. president, was impeached in 1868. He was acquitted by the U.S. Senate. Since then, 3 U.S. presidents have had their own encounters with impeachment. Marcela Baedo spoke to a local family to see how different generations remember these historical events.
In 1974, President Nixon left office before being impeached. 24 years later, President Clinton was officially impeached in 1998. And most recently, President Trump faced impeachment proceedings ending earlier this month. We wanted to understand what it's like for a multi-generational family to talk about and compare all these impeachments over dinner. Laughter, a warm meal,
if he behaved,
and politics.
he'd be hired.
Oh, I disagree.
Just a typical night at the Ashtons as they come together for dinner. Tonight's menu, chili and talk about the recent impeachment trial of President Donald Trump. Lynn Ashton Jr. has lived through the last 3 most recent impeachment events.
Nixon committed a crime. He tried to cover up a burglary. Clinton committed perjury during the Whitewater investigation. That's another crime.
And the most recent case, which Lynn Jr. says is not an impeachable offense.
Trump hasn't committed any crimes.
Lynn Jr. leads the family discussion over dinner most nights.
The House keeping it as closed as they did.
And sees the importance in involving the whole family.
Younger kids are often less informed, so you get more of an emotional response than an intellectual response.
The Senate and the House are still going to be fighting about the same thing.
For the youngest Ashton, 20-year-old Samantha, she says it's her first time seeing an impeachment trial.
I saw a meme.
She was so overwhelmed by the information on social media that she decided to delete her Twitter account.
I would rather get it from a source that I know is true and unbiased, like my family. I go to my dad and my grandma and even my brother because they'll tell me both sides.
Here in the West Valley, where the Ashtons live, they've been able to witness impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump. Now, a different generation within their own family is able to compare this trial to other trials in history.
I watched every minute I could. When Nixon was impeached, I had little kids, and I do remember, being very aware of it. But I also remember that it was a longer process.
Grandparents Lynn Sr. and Mike Yell say with each impeachment case, partisanship grows.
This one was totally partisan, I believe. They started way too early.
Regardless of their differing views at times, the Ashtons say coming together at the end of the day for dinner to talk about important issues is a way for everyone to learn.
What are we talking about?
Adam Schiff, he was the one that led the House investigation against Trump.
Even though the impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump are over, the Ashtons feel as if this will still be an important issue leading up to the 2020 presidential election in November. In the broadcast center, Marcela Baedo, Cronkite News.
Quarantine is over for the Tempe man who tested positive for the coronavirus. County health officials in Arizona say the patient, who has ties to ASU, is no longer infected by the virus. The Arizona Republic reported the male patient is in his 20s and has been in isolation since January after returning from China.
Mesa Mayor John Giles announced a plan to make college more affordable for students. The plan will offer 2 years of free community college tuition for Mesa residents.
And that plan is under the framework of Achieve 60 Arizona, focused on improving the number of people working towards their college degree.
Cronkite News reporter Madison Atkinson explains the program. Madison?
The Mesa College Promise campaign encourages high school students to go to college without those students being discouraged about the price of tuition.
It's a promise that if you do your part, if you stay in school, if you fill out the FAFSA form, and if you plan on going to college, that the community will help make up the difference between what you can bring to the table and what it takes to get registered for 2 years of community college.
All high school students in the city of Mesa are encouraged to apply for the program.
This will cover any high school student in the city of Mesa, whether they're in a charter school or a private school or a brick and mortar public school.
Students with Pell Grants and other federal aid will be eligible for the program. The program will cover the first 2 years of community college tuition.
The goal is to cover to get someone out of school with an associate's degree or a certificate. See, the motivation for this is really part of the AZ, Achieve 60 AZ program. Unfortunately, Arizona and Mesa, we are underachieving when it comes to higher education attainment compared to other states and other cities.
Mayor Giles believes the program will need to be funded by a combination of public and private dollars.
We certainly, as a college, want to contribute to it. The city wants to contribute to it. That's what makes this unique, is that it's really an arm-in-arm, hand-in-hand partnership between the city, the municipality, and the businesses and industry leaders in the city and the community, as well as the college.
Certainly, the city is coming together as the convener. We're the folks that are inviting folks to the table to come and help us organize this and to pay for it. So there'll be some city funding involved. But also, as I indicated, we're getting a great response from the business community.
The city of Mesa expects to have the program established by 2021. Broadcast Center, Madison Atkinson, Cronkite News.
So now we want to hear from you. Do you think the first 2 years of community college should be free for all Arizona students?
So far, over 90% of you have voted yes in our live interactive poll. But it's not too late to join the conversation. Just go to our Cronkite News Twitter feed to weigh in. Still to come on Cronkite News at 5. We take you to Kobe Bryant's celebration of life in LA.
How we'll show you how celebrities and fans alike are honoring the basketball legend.
And the movement underway in Arizona to help get people to their medical appointments with ease.
And Homeland Secrets. ASU's Howard Center for Investigative Journalism examined agent-involved shootings nationwide by a little-known division of ICE. To watch the entire documentary, just go to our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org.